Hey everybody, this is Linda with Ink Stamp and Scrap. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to another workshop with you where I share some creative ideas on ways that you can use all of your paper crafting items to make handmade cards. Today we're going to work with one of Stampin' Up's new bundles called Christmas Season. We're also going to sprinkle in a couple things that you've seen in weeks past. Before I forget, let me just double check here that we're connected. Yep, looks like we're connected. So if you want to say hello and let me know that you're here in the comments, I'd greatly appreciate it. Last week I was away and I put a video up at 2 o'clock, but I wasn't live with it. And I asked you all to comment, and that would put you entered in a drawing for a prize. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Sue. So I wanted to let you know that the two winners are Julie Poindexter and Jeanne Kohler. I have replied to your I replied to your comments on last week's video. Please DM me at Ink Stamp and Scrap. You can find that on Facebook or Instagram, and let me know what your snail address is so I can send your prize. All right, let me answer one quick question. I think Sue's asking me, although I'm happy if Kathy's doing okay too. Sue, I'm doing great. I'm back. We're all settled back in, and we are ready for our next round of guests to arrive on Friday. So it's a very exciting time right now. We just got back from two back-to-back vacations, and now we are expecting guests all the way through the beginning of December. So anyway, I'll get to stamping in just a second. I just want to let you know, you can see the doors behind me are not closed. I'm actually alone in the house, which is fabulous. However, for recording, but I am expecting the doorbell to ring because the guy's here to just do maintenance on our AC/heater unit, and today's our day. So if the doorbell rings, I'm gonna walk away for like 2 minutes, but I'll just leave up the weekly stamp with me and I'll come right back. So if you can hang with me, I'd appreciate it. I promise all I have to do is say hi, tell him I'm here, pop the garage, and we're good to go. It won't take me more than a minute to get him all settled in. But that could happen at any time, or I could make it all the way through this and he doesn't even show up because he doesn't have to be here until 4 o'clock Eastern time. So let's get on with today. Let me turn you down and you can see what we are going to be using. All right, so today we are going to use the Christmas season bundle. I can show you all the dies. There's a bunch of tag dies, and these are really cool. These add a little bit of scallop to the edge and give you a hole to put twine or ribbon through. And these are full-on ribbon slots, which is really fun too. So very cool extra dies. And then you have nested long or skinny ones, nested bigger ones, and then nested regular ones. All right. And then you have shapes for all of the stamps. I'm going to flip this over and show you the stamps, but some of them are already blocked, as you can see to my left there, ready to use. So we're going to use almost all of these. We're going to skip the holly and some of this stuff today, but that doesn't mean you won't see them in another demo. So there's that. I also am in the middle of my discounted week on my upcoming class, which is a gift card holder class. If you are interested in taking that, I will leave a link below in this video. And I will also, thanks, Nancy. And I will also make sure that the blog post that goes up before dinner tonight, which has all the information about this video, includes a link to that class. Right now, I had released it to my email list, and now I'm going to release it to the public as of this evening. You can get the discounted price all the way through next Monday when the class drops. I think that's it. Oh, no, it's not. Also, Stampin' Up! Has a new suite that they are selling for the month of November. We're in November. Wow, how did that happen? We're in November. And they also have a special on um, the starter kit. I will leave all the details in the blog post, so make sure you click on that either below this video or just if you're on the blog post when you're watching this video, you can scroll around and you should be able to find that information. All right, so the title of this video is From Simple to Sophisticated. So I'm not even going to open this. I'm just going to show you the front of it. And then this is the sophisticated card, and we'll get to that in a bit. So I'm going to set it off to the side. This, I want to show you how I set it up so I don't forget in case I get busy stamping and neglect to explain this. What this is I ran all the dies that I needed for today just on a piece of leftover cardstock. This is terracotta tile. It's a retired color. I just keep all that retired cardstock just to use for things just like this. If you actually look, let me show you. If you look at the dies, like for example, this one goes with this, and you can see there's a lot of edging here. I cut all that away because I really just wanted the outline. Same with this one. I cut some of the inset stuff away. I just wanted the outline. And the reason that I do this is when I'm stamping die cuts, what I like to do is, hang on, let me grab everything so I can show you. When I'm stamping lots of die cuts like this, I like to just use thin sheets of white and just fill them up with the different dies and cut them all. And then when I go to stamp them, I just drop them in their corresponding slot here, just like that, and I stamp it and I'm done. And I can use my take your pick tool to pick it back up, either with the paper piercing edge or the putty to grab it. So this makes life really, really easy. If you want it to get even easier, you can set up all of these stamps in the Stamparatus and bring the Stamparatus down or your stamp positioning tool and stamp in all of these slots at once. Depends on what you're creating. If you really need all of the stuff stamped at once, or or you're just going slowly, maybe you just need a couple pine cones for some designs and a couple leaves for others. I just did all this so I have it available to me. It's just taped down with repositionable tape, and I did it on the Stamparatus mat mostly because it's coated plastic and it makes it really easy to take the tape away. If you're worried about things jiggling around, you can also put a little bit of repositionable tape underneath all of these. I've done that in the past, and just to make sure nothing wiggles when you're stamping. So there's that. All right. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to actually recreate this just so I can give you tips and tricks, because this is one of the best things you can do when you're mass producing. Sorry, had to walk away and grab a blank piece of paper. I thought I had one here, but I don't. So I'm going to show you how that all goes together. Let me get and we'll talk about ways to create basically designer series paper, scrapbook paper, wallpaper, whatever you want to call this. I'll give you my tips and tricks on creating this, and then you can take it from there. You definitely want to have some sort of scratch paper down that's larger than the piece of paper that you're using. You could actually even do this on a 12 by 12 piece of white if you want it, white cardstock if you wanted to, just to have a bigger space. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take my evening evergreen and I'm going to stamp the leaves around. Hang on, things are shifting and I don't want them to crash. So I'm going to grab my big leaf and I'm just going to stamp around. You want to make sure when you're doing this, you're stamping off and you're stamping in multiple directions. So I stamp, I don't know, 3 or 4, one direction, and then I just turn the block. I don't need to turn the paper. I just turn the block around in my hand because it just works better for me that way. I don't know why I'm guessing here. It doesn't really matter. All right, that's probably enough. I'm going to take my handy dandy rag and just wipe this off. I'll clean all these with the Simply Chamois at the end, but I'm going to be using them a bunch and it just is easier. Then I'm going to take the soft succulent, switch out the evening evergreen, which I already have in my hands, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I start with my bigger stamps and stamp those around. And I don't know, 8 to 10 probably. All right. And the reason that I think this is a great thing to do for when you're mass producing is it's really the most economical. Any white cardstock is going to be less expensive than colored cardstock, and you have the stamps. So just create your paper this way. Just create your layers this way. It gives you a great background. It showcases everything. This is one of the reasons Stampin' Up! Stamps come in sets, so you can do stuff like this and everything coordinates. So now I'm going to add some of the pine cones, and these are 2 steps. So I want to take the background and start with that. So I'm going to use soft suede. Actually, no, I'm going to use crumb cake. I'm going to show you the difference. So you can decide what you like. Oh, Sue, I just saw your note about maybe leaving early. Totally get it. Grandsons trump everything. All right. This video will be available to watch right afterwards. And I do remember that you guys were interested in some kind of a guide or instructions on mass producing tips. So this is some of it. And then what I'm going to do is just turn it into a PDF that you can download and just have for the order of things that I do. And by all means, do you. I am not a mass production. I'm not claiming to be a mass production expert. I'm just somebody who's been making her own holiday cards and all that stuff for a very long time. And I've picked up a few tips and tricks along the way. I'm actually going to do, I think it's in 2 weeks, just because of our guest schedule. I'm going to do a whole video on mass production tips. Even if that's after you've finished your holiday stamping, it's worth the watch because you're going to get to January, and I'll bet you, as a paper crafter, one of your get ready for 2022's goals is going to be get ahead on birthday and those kind of cards. And so all the tips that I give you in 2 weeks are going to be applicable for any kind of card, not just holiday cards. Because I'm just going to talk through the pieces, like when you're stamping, tips and tricks to make it go faster, when you're die cutting, tips and tricks to make it go faster, the order that I like to do things in. I have a few habits that I've developed over the years, and I'm going to share them all with you. All right. And next week next week's going to be all about boxes. But if you notice the date, it is not a typo. I'm going live on Wednesday because my friends are still here on Tuesday and I hardly ever get to see them anymore. So I am going to maximize my time with them. All right, so I'm down to the smallest stamp and I'm filling, but I don't want to overfill because what happens when you put too much on is then you really literally have to fill the whole thing in, because if there's any blank, then it looks kind of goofy because everything is so packed in and then there's like this one spot of white. So I think that is enough. I'm going to do the detail of these pine cones and then I'm going to stop. Now I could chop this up into 4 card fronts that are 5¼ by 4. You'll see that I could use this layer in a 4 by 4 fashion, but I still am only going to get 4 out of this. But I could also cut it down much smaller in smaller rectangles and layer a little more or not layer at all and get as many as 6 cards out of this one piece of cardstock. And I will be sure to include those kind of things in my mass production download for you. Different ways that you can chop this up in order to get as many cards as possible. I'm not going to make it a one sheet wonder where you use every little piece and you have like a tiny little 1/2 inch strip on your card. I want this to be more of, this is going to be like the focal point or like a big piece of designer series paper in lieu of a big piece of designer series paper. So there you go. That's one version of this. Let me clean these off and see if anybody, um, do, do, do. All right. Yeah, I see collage stamping is a good way to call it. I always think that when I think of collage stamping though, I always like, I don't leave no stone is left unturned. No spot is left white. I will find some kind of filler stamps and literally stamp everywhere. When I'm making this kind of, background paper, I'm not so worried if I have white. But when I do collage stamping, I like it to be totally filled in. Speaking of background, when I was playing with this stamp set, I could not, for the life of me, figure out, let me show you. Here it is. Oh, no, it's not. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. What this stamp was for. So I played around. I looked at the designer series paper that goes with this. That's how I figured it out. So I'm going to share with you what I found. So if you decide that this is a stamp set you want or a bundle, then you'll know what to do with that guy. So there are actually two different ways to create a, let's call it a twigs with berries. I saved myself a little piece of paper so I could show you. So you have this twig stamp. And here it is. So I'm going to make two of them, and then I'll show you what your options are. So you can do, you might not be able to make two on here. I might have grabbed too small of a piece of paper. All right. Well, we'll go like that and see how we end up. So it's just twigs, and clearly there's spacing that coordinates with another stamp. I thought it only coordinated with the holly berries, which, let me get my cherry, which are obvious. So you ink these up, and you have this one separated right here, and he goes up on top of that, and you can just see how it all sort of falls together. Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's not perfect, and it's not meant to be perfect, so that you can miss a little and it still looks cool. So there's that. So you can do it with the berries, but you can also do it with, I'll call them the mini berries. So this, again, this separated one up top, I was kind of putting it up here, and it just sort of fills it in. And then if you just go a little bit off, you can get another one, and that looks cool too. And it had it this way on the designer series paper. So I figured that's what they meant you to do. So you can either just kind of scatter the berries, or you can actually sort of line them up to go on the actual twig itself. I'm going to wipe this off. All right, so let's get to making our simple card. We're going to start with that. Now, the one thing that this stamp set, or bundle if you want the dies, does not have is greetings. So you are going to have to grab a season's greeting, a Merry Christmas, a something from somewhere else. I'm going to go back to the bundle that we used last week, which was the Christmas to Remember, with all the greetings and then the pine cones and the greenery. We're just going to use the greetings from this because I figured it was familiar. You saw it last week. We go with that. So the first card that we are going to create, I'm going to move this so it's not so distracting, is going to be your super simple basic card. So it's an 11 by 4¼ piece of basic white cardstock, scored at 5½. I'm going to fold that in half, and then I'm going to just burnish the fold. I took two of the die cuts from the bundle, but these could be rectangles, just straight cut rectangles. I just wanted to show off the dies because I really like them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some of that paper that we just made, and we're going to cut it up. Let me grab my trimmer. And I'm just going to give myself a 1/4 sheet. And I'm going to go right here. I need 5¼ by 4. So I'm going to cut that to 5¼ leaving that not a half, but a little bit larger. And here's my 4. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is take dimensionals and pop this up a little bit. This is one trick that will give your card just a little more finesse if you pop up all the layers. So yes, this is a simple card, but if you take a little bit of time while you're watching TV one night, you can just add a little bit more. It gives it almost a drop shadow look by just adding this little bit of dimension to your card. It doesn't cost you very much, and it really does add quite a bit to the card. All right, so now I have my 4 by 5 1/4. There we go right there. Now I'm going to stamp my greeting. Toss those. I'm going to use Evening Evergreen. And get my stamping mat here. Okay, so I'm gonna use the Have a Holly Jolly Christmas, and I'm just gonna stamp that on the white. I have so many stamps out, I have limited space today. All right, so I'm gonna stamp this right here. There we go, Have a Holly Jolly Christmas. I'm gonna use my dimensionals again. So all the white layers are going to pop up. Now, if I use dimensionals on the back of the other label that I die cut with Evening Evergreen, that might almost be too much. So I'm not going to use one on that. I'm just going to use some regular glue, but I am going to show you. Obviously, I could put some jewels around, or I could I could wrap some ribbon around, but instead what I'm going to do is just take this really pretty evergreen trim. What did they call it? Chevron weave ribbon. And I'm going to take, only because it's right here, I'm going to take a piece of tear and tape and put it on the back. I could do liquid glue. I could do Stamp and Seal. I just don't have one nearby. So I'm just going to take a piece of tear and tape and put it right across the back here. And I'm going to release the paper. Then I'm just going to use that to add some ribbon to the back. Again, this doesn't require you to tie fancy bows. And what I would do is measure, when you make the first one, measure how much this is. So I'm just going back and forth. I'm going to make a loop down here, and then I'm going to make another loop up here. So it's going to come down just like this. And then I'm going to grab my ribbon scissors. I'm going to trim this off. I'm going to trim this off. And then what I would do is, if this was my model and I was trying to figure out this is how I want my holiday cards to be, I would take this right back off and measure it. And then I know how much ribbon I need, if I needed 1 spool or 2 based on how many cards I was making. So I'm going to bring my card back in, and now I'm just going to put this right here, and it just gives it so much dimension to add that ribbon. But again, it's something that can flatten in the mail. That's okay. When it goes through, you can slide it into your envelope just fine, but it adds so much fashion to your card, and it's really a wonderful way to embellish a card, to just add that ribbon fold behind. You can certainly have your loops closer. That'll use less ribbon. That's up to you. Let's see. Oh, you like the little dots. Thanks. I think you're talking about when I did the twig before. Okay. So this is your simple card. That's the first one for today. Now let's step that up just a little bit. And this time we're going to use the smaller, or the second size. I'm not making sense. I know I'm not. The larger of these 2 dies is going to be the smaller one on this card, and you can set them just like this to offset, to add a little something to your card. This is going to go on the inside because we're going to use an Evening Evergreen card. So I am going to burnish this so that my fold is really nice. We're going to stamp this and we're going to stamp the outside of the card. So I'm going to go ahead, since I have the larger one, I'm going to go ahead and do love and joy come to you and may it last the whole year through. And I'm going to ink that up and I'm going to stamp it in evening evergreen. So we're going to start with the greeting. Since I did both of the these papers with the evening evergreen, that means that I can take a slice of this one and use it on this card just so you can see the difference. So I'm going to make this, ooh, it's going to go in my ink. I'm going to make this 4 inches. I want it to be a little busier. See, I say don't worry about the white space, and then I'm worrying about the, oh, stop. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. I'm going to make this 5 1/4. And we're going to do the 4 right here. Okay, so now this is going to be the front of my card. This time it's soft suede and early espresso that I used to make my pine cones. So this card is going to have a little bit different of a look. I'm also going to make a bow this time, but I'm only going to make a knot bow because this, a KNOT bow, because this is kind of thicker ribbon. So I'm going to take a slice of this. I don't even need that much. I just did it because it'll be easier to make the knot. I'm just going to loop it around. Sorry, hate to cough when the microphone's right there. All right. Thanks, you guys. Just looked up and saw all the nice compliments. Appreciate it. All right, so I'm not going to pull it super tight because I want this to stay a little bit on the big side. And it is ribbon, so I'm going to kind of squish it around a little. I will trim the edges when I get to the end, and I'm actually going to add this to the card. The next thing that I'm going to do is grab my dimensionals. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and use liquid glue to attach the the pine cone stamped background to the card. So I'm going to use double dimensionals this time on the labels. 2 layers with dimensionals work fine for going through the postal scanner. It's when you go 3 that sometimes it can be considered too tall. It just depends on who your postal service worker is. Just realized that will not work. Let's get the back side of this. And again, if you're sending hundreds of cards, maybe you're not going to use dimensionals as much as I am. Totally up to you. Just giving you different ideas and letting you know anything that really isn't going to work well. And I can tell you 3 layers, I have ended up putting extra postage on it because it just doesn't work too well. I think, no, that's really tall. I'm going to go this way. I am going to end up covering a lot of this, but that's okay. So we're going to go right there. And then we're going to come over here. And I'm going to add a little stack of dimensionals. Oops. Off. Okay, I did it wrong. So there we go. Sticky side to sticky side. They don't even have to be perfectly aligned, except I have the wrong side of the release paper down there now. Oh, I won't say what I'm thinking. All right, let's peel this one off. Okay, Start over. Get off my finger. It's still sticky. All right, so sticky and sticky. Peel this off. There we go. We'll just forget that other part. I'm just going to tuck this under here so that it doesn't stick out, and this is where your take your pick tool comes in handy. There we go. So it's tucked under there. There we go. Now I can trim this off so it's a nice edge. Trim that a little bit. And then when I'm sticking down a glue knot, I like to just add a glue dot to the back. Okay, this is not a glue knot. This is just a simple knot. There we go. I'm going to add that. And then if you want to, you can use the trick from last week where you just tap this with your anti-static tool to get rid of any glue dot that's coming up behind. But you shouldn't have that problem because it is a pretty good sized piece of ribbon. So this is the whole embellishment part for the front of our card. On the inside of the card, I'm going to stamp Season's Greetings. So I've still got my evergreen stamp pad out, and we will stamp. The one thing I like about the Christmas to Remember greeting set is that it does have the season's greetings and it also has a Merry Christmas. So one stamp set for all, which I do appreciate. Okay, so we're going to liquid glue on the inside. And again, you could do this with a lighter color or a white base, and then you wouldn't need this extra layer. That would be another way to do this. But remember my word of warning, then you're stamping on the full card. And if you aren't happy with it, then you're going to end up adding a layer anyway. And then this is going on the front of our card. So stepped up a little bit. We added a knot to our ribbon, a couple layers of that little guy is still sticking out there. Okay. A couple of different dies, greetings on the inside and the out. But again, we used our pre-stamped background paper. So there it is with crumb cake, and there it is with soft suede. All right, so now let's get to our sophisticated card. I don't know how sophisticated it really is. It just went with simple when I was trying to find a catchy title, but it is a cool fold. I haven't done a fun fold in a while. I think I'm going to need that stamp pad again, but anyway, I'm going to bring this in. So this actually uses the Christmas to Remember Designer Series paper, which is still available in the holiday catalog. And we are going to recreate this card, but instead of using Designer Series paper, we are going to use, I'm going to stamp the pine cone, and I'm going to finish off the pine cone in soft suede, and then we will add one of the little leaf embellishments, I think, if I can find it. Oh, yep, there it is. And we'll add one of the leaf embellishments to make this work. And you can see I actually, the evergreen on the side is a set of folders. I wanted to show you these. So the evergreen that I created here, the texture is this one, and it actually comes as a set with the snowflake. So these are two minis. They will go through the mini die cut machine, and they're really fun to play with. All right, so what we need this. And the way that this card works, let me show you real quick. So there's our greeting and there's our ribbon right there, but it opens as a 4x4. It's called a bookbinding fold. So here we go. First live on YouTube. Hey, Becky, nice to see you. So we have Season's Greetings on the inside. Same greetings as we used on card number 2. We're going to use that ribbon again. I am going to use the bow maker, but instead of this card, we're going to use our soft suede pre-stamped wallpaper, designer series paper, one sheet wonder, so many different names for one thing. All right, so we need our trimmer again so that I can get this down to 4x4. So let's do that. Again, I'm not so concerned using this today as to how the cuts are going. I'm not trying to maximize my usage, but if I were using this for my actual holiday cards and I wanted to make sure that I maximized everything, I would definitely be more careful with the way that I am cutting this down. All right, I am going to start because it's a red ink and it's kind of humidish. Actually, it's not really humid at all, but it's still Florida and it makes me nervous. That red ink seems to take a long time to dry. So I'm going to clean the green off of my Season's Greetings. I'm going to grab my Cherry Cobbler ink pad. I'm going to put these two away just to get a little room here. All right, and then I'm going to ink this up. Funny thing is, I think I need every single one of those things back to do this card, but hey, that's all right. And we're going to put the Season's Greetings at the top, leaving me plenty of room to say whatever I'd like to in the note to whoever's going to get this. And then I'm going to decorate the front. So we're going to use this with the ribbon. These are going to go together, but I need to stamp this one. And then I have a label for the other greeting. So let's get the pine cone finished. Here's my detail for the large. I know this almost looks like it's early espresso until I think I get nervous because the soft suede stamps pretty dark, but the early espresso is even darker. So there we go. And then I'm going to take my pre-cut label from the Christmas season dies and switch back to my evening evergreen. And then I'm going to show you some tricks for wrapping that ribbon around. So here we go. Nice and straight, fingers crossed. Yeah, straight enough. Maybe a tiny bit off, but it's okay. All right, so when you want to create a book binding card, you want to start with an 11 by 4¼ piece of cardstock. And I'm going to turn it this way because you're actually going to score it at 5½ and then 6¾ Again, this will all be in the instructions. So now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to get ink on this. Put this right here. I am going to use my bone folder and it's going to go this way. I'm going to fold the card in half. And then I'm going to, it's a little off. Let's straighten that out. And then I'm going to fold this part back. Because the card is actually going, when I open it, it's going to open like this. But you're not going to be able to do this pulling part. We're going to put some adhesive here. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pre-stamped designer series paper and I'm going to put it down there. And I don't have, I'm missing one thing. Hold for a moment. Aha, I needed this layer. Okay, so I cut this down to 4 by 4 and it fits in there really nicely. But I just added a 4⅛ by 4⅛ to go around this because this is 4¼ by 4¼ square. You do not have to add that extra layer. I just wanted to add something to make it pop up a little more. So I'm just going to use my liquid glue and put these together. And I'm not really worried about the direction yet because I'm just getting this piece matted. There we go. Okay, and then I'm also going to mat the die embossed piece of soft suede onto early espresso. This is 1 inch by 4 inches, and this is 1 1/8 by 4 1/8. Again, all of that will be in the supplies and measurements. There we go. And now I'm going to start putting stuff. Oh, no, I'm not. Okay, well, this will be interesting. Huh, okay. How fun is this? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to make it work. I need this. I just didn't mean to glue that yet. I wanted to show you how I'm going to keep the ribbon pretty flat. So we'll do it in the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ribbon. I'm going to lay this next to it so I can see how long it is. And I'm going to run a little strip of glue, just not heavy. From one end to the other. Now, if this wasn't wet on the back, I'd just lay it down. I'm going to put my finger where the glue's at the end. And there we go. Okay, I'm getting a little gluey, but it should be okay. All right, so that light strip of glue will help keep this all down. Now I'm just going to fold this over since I put glue on the back, but normally I would trim it off and then fold it down. I wouldn't have such big pieces on the back, but I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm just going to add, and obviously I cut way more ribbon than I needed to. Just going to add some liquid glue to that, and then we're going to put that right where the binding strip is. You do not want to make this layer longer or wider than 1 1/8 by 4 1/8, which is how big I made that early espresso. That's the max that'll fit nicely in this channel. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this layer and see which way I want it to go. So I want kind of the niceness towards the top. I think I'm going to go this way. And again, that just fits in there really nice, and you have some pretty cherry to show off. And I can still open this really nice. And now I could use liquid glue there to finish it off, but I'm going to use Tear and Tape because I want to show you how it opens and closes so nicely, and I would really have to let the liquid glue set up in order to do that. And there we go. These are my sticky cutting scissors. So anything sticky that needs to get cut, I use those. There we go. So this is, again, this is a super easy fold, but it just looks really cool, and I love it. And it's not that difficult. It's one extra score line. It makes it so your larger layers are all squares, which I think is fun and easy to measure, especially if you're going to start with a 12 by 12. If you want to use up your designer series paper, this is a great design to use that up because you can get 9 squares, 4 by 4 out of your 12 by 12 designer series paper, and then just enjoy. All right, so now we just need to add the things. Oh, actually, we're going to add the inside, but we just need to add the things that are going to really make this card pop. So let's put our greeting on the inside. Thanks, Becky. Appreciate that. All right, so like I said, I will be back next Wednesday with a box video for you. I'm pretty excited about that. And then the following week, we're going to go through tips and tricks on mass production. All right, so there's season's greetings, and then we're going to do some dimensionals here with the love and joy. I am not going to have anybody sticking out, so I'm just going to do 6 of them this time. sticks. There we go. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take my greenery. Is it going to, yeah, there it is. It's attached to one of the dimensionals. And then I'm going to tuck this in here. And it's also attached to one of the dimensionals. So that gives me a little bit of pop. I'm going to put dimensionals underneath these, or on these, so they'll stand up as well. I think I can fit, oh, I probably can fit a small one here and here. There we go. That's why it's nice to have those little guys too. So let's take these off. Can you hear the construction outside? I'm not sure. Oh, you did. Well, good, Sue. I bet they came out beautiful. All right. So there we go. We're going to lay this right here. And then the last thing I'm going to do is add a bow at the top. I'm just going to twist the bow the other way just to give you a little bit of variety. There is a link to the 10-second bow maker below this video. And on my website, if you are interested in purchasing one, they do make your bow tying super wonderful. I'm going to make a little bit of a bigger bow than the first one, and I'm going to turn it on its side more than the first one. The first one was kind of at a diagonal. I'll show you that in just a second. Pull these. Grab my ribbon scissors. 1, 2. Okay. Toss that back there. And then I'm just going to grab a glue dot again, because like I said, this ribbon is really thick. Needs something pretty sturdy to stick it down. And this time I am going to go this way and line it right up with that. So there we go. All right, let me clear this off so then I can bring back all the wonder that we made today and show you. Let's slide all this out of the way a little bit. I don't think I'm going to be possibly able to get everything out of the way because we had a lot of stuff today. All right, so I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I had a really good time making cards with you. Let me bring in, so these are the 3 that we made, from simple, stepped up to sophisticated. And then this was the one that I showed you at the very beginning with the book binding. So this is just with different colors, with the crumb cake and the early espresso, and then the soft suede and the early espresso. So you decide what you like better. Thank you so much for joining me. Go make it a crafty day, and by all means, share with me what you have made. Love to see it. Take care, everybody. I'll see you next Wednesday.